No evil force on earth can match the noble power and righteous glory of the American warrior. I want to take this opportunity to thank all members of America's armed forces in every branch, active duty, National Guard, and Reserve, who stepped forward to help battle the invisible enemy, the new virus that came to our shores from a distant land called China. We will vanquish the virus. We will extinguish this plague. We need you to be as bold and determined as the immortal General Douglas MacArthur, who knew that the American soldier never ever quits. After leaving the Philippines for Australia at a low point of the Pacific War in 1942, MacArthur famously vowed, "I shall return." For 2 years, he then took great strategic risks and placed himself often in personal danger. On October 20th, 1944, MacArthur stepped off a landing boat, strode through knee-high water, and proclaimed, "People of the Philippines, I have returned. By the grace of Almighty God, our forces stand again on Philippine soil." He then called upon the island's brave people to rise up and join the fight. America's momentum was unstoppable. These great leaders were not afraid of what others might say about them. They didn't care. They knew their duty was to protect our country. They knew the Army exists to preserve the Republic and the strong foundations upon which it stands: family, God, country, liberty, and justice. They were true, tough American patriots. That is what our country needs, especially in these times. And that is what you are. Each of you begins your career in the Army at a crucial moment in American history. We are restoring the fundamental principles that the job of the American soldier is not to rebuild foreign nations, but defend and defend strongly our nation from foreign enemies. We are ending the era of endless wars. In its place is a renewed, clear-eyed focus on defending America's vital interests. It is not the duty of U.S. troops to solve ancient conflicts in faraway lands that many people have never even heard of. We are not the policemen of the world, but let our enemies be on notice. If our people are threatened, we will never, ever hesitate to act. And when we fight, from now on, we will only fight to win. As MacArthur said, in war, there is no substitute for victory. To ensure you have the very best equipment and technology available, my administration has embarked on a colossal rebuilding of the American armed forces, a record like no other. After years of devastating budget cuts and a military that was totally depleted from these endless wars, we have invested over $2 trillion, that's with a T, dollars, in the most powerful fighting force by far on the planet Earth. We are building new ships, bombers, jet fighters, and helicopters by the hundreds, new tanks, military satellites, rockets, and missiles, even a hypersonic missile that goes 17 times faster than the fastest missile currently available in the world and can hit a target 1,000 miles away, within 14 inches from center point. For the first time in 70 years, we established a new branch of the United States military, the Space Force. It's a big deal.
Now that is United States President Donald Trump talking to West Point graduates about the importance of the military in protecting the United States' interests, domestic and abroad. Also, in his 30-minute speech, he mentioned about the fact that the United States is not a global police, but it will be ready to prepare itself if threatened by foreign threats like China and transnational terrorism. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, we have President Rodrigo Duterte touting his friendship with Xi Jinping during the Philippines Independence Day. How ironic that is. And surprisingly, Duterte's bizarre friendship with Xi Jinping caught the attention of global analysts, especially this woman commentator from one of India's most popular broadcasting networks, the WION. In this program called Gravitas, they talk about how Xi Jinping fooled the Philippines, especially its president, Rodrigo Duterte.
China wants us to believe it shares a good relationship with the Philippines. Xi Jinping says he's ready to promote ties to a new level. The president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, is open to the idea. Is China trying to pull the Philippines away from the United States? And is the Philippines ready to be pulled away? Here's a report.
This is China calling the Philippines its friend. Such public display of affection comes with strings attached. Chinese President Xi Jinping is now ready to take the diplomatic ties to the next level. The question is, what's in it for China? The hope to get the Philippines on its side. In February, Filipino President Duterte said he won't allow American troops to operate on his soil. He scrapped a 2-decade-old agreement. China surely likes such a friend. America's exit would mean China's entry, or so it hoped. But America is also the main defense ally of the Philippines, provider of military hardware and training. Duterte's generals do not want to lose that. Not when China is trying to capture the South China Sea. Over the past 3 months, China has pointed a laser gun at a Philippine warship, rammed and sank a Philippine boat, and turned 7 reefs claimed by Philippines into artificial islands and militarized them. Despite all of this, Duterte says China is the preferred economic partner. Without realizing it, Duterte is now caught between China and the United States. Beijing is professing diplomatic love and 45 years of ties. Manila is fixing an airstrip in the South China Sea. This won't go down well with China, but Duterte is desperate to show that his pro-China stance will pay off. He's risking the fury of his own people. In 2018, during Xi Jinping's visit to Manila, Filipinos made it clear they do not want Chinese interference, and that they do not want Chinese money. There is near absence of any Chinese infrastructure investments, only increased militarization of the South China Sea, so Duterte got cold feet. He took a U-turn towards Washington and went back to tell the US that he won't scrap the Visiting Forces Agreement. So US troops will remain in the Philippines. And with this, President Duterte has installed himself in the middle of the US-China political stalemate.